Hello there, my name is Rupert Taylor, and I'm sitting here today in my bar. And the bar is the Boost Activity Room, which is where we launch, mobilize, define projects and programs for our clients. It's also where we run bar chats, and bar chats are small snippets, 3 or 4 minutes, where I'm looking at a problem that I've come across many, many times in the area of managing portfolios of projects, and just identifying any solutions that I can share to the wider audience that might be out there struggling with similar problems. Hope you enjoy it. So today in the bar, what I really would like to look at is those times when, as a PMO, you're in a time when you're going to have to take, really significant decisions are going to have to be taken by the business. And we have had two such times recently like that. Number one was the pandemic, which kind of hit us out of nowhere, and suddenly portfolios of projects had to be turned literally upside down overnight. And the other is actually now, as we move into a period of economic instability, high interest rates, much higher costs, energy issues, etc. It's slightly different, but same sort of crisis point that we need to account for. And what I would say to you is, in that situation, strange as it might seem, this is actually should be seen as a fantastic opportunity for PMOs. This is a real sort of time to shine for a PMO. This is the time when the business needs you most. And if you can respond to that need, then you are going to be in a very good place. Your credibility is going to go through the roof, and the value to the organization is going to go through the roof as well. So what do I mean that? What are the sort of things you can do in a situation like this? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of the sort of ways that we approach a crisis situation like this. And the only reason I can say that is because we went through the pandemic crisis. You don't need to have the tool that we've got here that's on the screen. You can, whether it's a PowerPoint or Excel spreadsheets or another tool, the principles are the same. And so let's look at some of the things that you can do in a situation like this. So the first thing is, you can have your arms around the portfolio, but present it in a very simple way. Just remember, the executive team, who are your sponsors and key stakeholders, at a time like this are not going to want complication. They're going to want simple visual views of what's going on so that they can stimulate the right discussion and debate around what within the portfolio they have to stop, what they have to put on hold, and what new projects might need to come in to the portfolio. So the pandemic, for instance, a new project that would have come in was gearing up for working from home almost immediately, overnight. With this economic crisis, there are going to be projects that have to be put on hold because there's probably a focus on cost management, cost reduction. So what do we mean by looking at the portfolio? The sort of way that I would say you can present the portfolio in a simple way is a list of the items within the portfolio, and by different sort of driver, the sort of things that your sponsors and stakeholders are going to be interested in. If we look at our portfolio today, what are the things that we could stop, hold, or what do we need to put on? So the things like the areas of the business that are going to be impacted, the level of resource that's required for these specific projects, the alignment with the strategic objectives that we have, which of course might have changed pretty much overnight. If the economy changes overnight, then your strategic objectives might change overnight. So making sure you can select the ones that essentially relate to the latest set of strategic objectives. So we've got that. That's getting your arms around the portfolio. Also, just presenting a really simple view of which projects do we have in which phase of potentially multiple life cycles. So giving a simple view of what are the projects we're talking about and how far down the life cycle are they? Equally, looking at a picture of sort of start date, end date, and current RAG status of existing projects that are going through the portfolio. And then finally, sort of just a simple view that shows these are the projects we've got up and running, where are the risks that relate to those projects or the issues, and just give us a, giving a really easy picture to then drill through to. We're going to stop some of our agile portfolio. Let's start with the ones that are struggling. So just a really simple view of the ones that are then struggling. And then let's go into sort of what's in those epics, what are the stories in the epics, etc. So just simple. If you want to present yourself as a PMO in a crisis situation in the best possible light, one of the things that you can do most successfully is just keep your visual presentation of the discussion and the decision making that your executive team needs to make really, really simple. Good luck with it. So today in the bar, we're going to look at what you can do in those moments of crisis, but using the capability you have within the PMO. Different PMOs have very varied capability sets. Some of them have got much more mature analysts than others. And that doesn't mean that one PMO is necessarily better than another just because it has more mature analysts. In fact, sometimes it can be the opposite. But what it does mean is that in a moment of crisis, you need to be able to use the capabilities within the PMO to be able to generate information that's going to be valuable for the senior leadership team to take decisions on. So what I mean by that, and here's some examples. This is the sort of thing that's incredibly simple to create, and you don't need a high level of maturity in the PMO to make this happen and make it available to the senior executive team in those moments of crisis. So for instance, a view of the timeline of different projects, just really simple, giving them a view of when things starting, when are things stopping, what's the state of each project, etc. And how much are we trying to push through the project funnel at any given time. Equally, present information to the executive level at a level that they can cope with. So don't, just avoid really texty, wordy PowerPoint slides and focus more on sort of this level of detail. So a view of milestones with some RAG status against them. Get your finances onto a nice, good-looking graph, a picture of the history, etc. Then maybe an overview of your escalated risks and issues. But a nice heat map is easy to read. They can then say, well, okay, I want to see the top two, the worst two, and the deep red zone. And then a high-level overview of timelines. Generally, sponsors and key stakeholders in most organizations don't need to see a 300-line project plan. They might need to know it's there, but very rarely do they need to see that level of visibility. They're more interested in a high-level view of the milestones that are out there. The other sort of thing you can do is create a really nice report that essentially is playing into the hands and the needs of what the C-suite, the executive team are looking for. And again, generally, it's a misconception that they're looking for lots of detail. In fact, they normally want quite the opposite. So just an overview of their key projects, maybe with some form of red, amber, green, and the top highlights, maybe the top 3 highlights. Because this should be enough to let them and know what they need to worry about at a level that they can digest in literally 2 or 3 minutes flat. You don't need a high level of maturity to create this type of really simple view of the portfolio, which you're going to find, which they will find incredibly valuable. All good news for the PMO. Tick in the box with the executive team. Welcome back into the bar. And today we're still in this mode of looking at how you deal with crisis management. How can a PMO really shine during a period of crisis management with the portfolio. And what I want to look at today is the concept of pre-read. So I see PMOs time and time again creating large PowerPoint packs that go out as a pre-read in advance of a portfolio review meeting or a project steering group or whatever. And I would say probably 8 out of 10 times that large PowerPoint pack doesn't really get read. So the concept of a pre-read doesn't, often doesn't work. But what can you do about it, particularly in a time of crisis? So in a time of crisis, I think the main thing is people at the top of the business, the leadership team, the leadership of the business don't have time. And also they will get very frustrated if the PMO uses their time unwisely. So what I'm going to show you is what we do for a pre-read. So imagine a portfolio review coming up and the PMO is having to create the pre-read. I'm going to select the 8 projects in here that are being discussed. In fact, I'll add another couple on here because they're on the agenda. And what I am going to do is I'm going to create what we call a clipboard. So let me just get those on here. And this is my structure for the portfolio review pre-read. And essentially, I've then selected the projects that are going to be discussed. I've created a pre-read, and I can now, that is a 1-page pre-read, and we adopt this principle, and I would really think about this in your PMO. We adopt this principle which we call the 1-5 principle. 1-5 means the executive team who receive this, who are the participants in your regular governance meeting, portfolio review or whatever, have got 1 minute in which to determine what they really want to dive deeper into. And on a 1-pager, you can do this in about 30 seconds. I can see this is amber. I've got some highlights. This one is red. I've got some highlights. These ones are green. I'm not going to look at them unless I've seen a reason to worry about them during the week or the month or whatever. But this is incredibly simple to read. And yet, if I am interested in the Apollo program and it's amber and I'm concerned about that, so I want to then do my pre-read. I've done my 1 minute of establishing what I want to look at. The 1-5 then leads me to 5 minutes of deep dive. So when you deep dive, this is a live link. You go into that live link and this is going to take me essentially into that area of in this case perform, but it might be something else that's giving me the next level of detail. So I've got here my high-level project plan, which I can see the key risks and issues. We've got finances, we've got benefits, etc. Resources, my resource. So I can really do my pre-read, but it's structured in a way that I can do it in no more than 5 minutes. So 1 minute to establish what I'm really interested in deep diving into. And then the deep dive, if it takes more than 5 minutes, you're probably going to lose my attention. If you want to really shine as a PMO in a moment of crisis, give your leadership team information that they can digest in small bite-sized chunks. Let them know what they need to know, rather than trying to give them everything and making it too detailed. Good luck with it. Hello there and welcome back to the bar, where today we are still in crisis mode. So what we're looking at is these scenarios, these times when businesses get plunged into a crisis like the pandemic and like the current economic crisis which we're facing, and therefore the portfolio sort of has to be reacted to and changed potentially very, very quickly indeed. And I want to concentrate today on risks because there's a number of things here that I think PMOs could do really well to think through in order to shine during these periods of crisis. And the first thing is developing a culture around red, amber, green. And that culture really is the importance that of the organization, particularly at times like this, when it's a crisis time, of thinking about, red and amber are good. They're not bad. It is a good thing to be red and amber, and it's good to be identifying red and ambers as early as possible in the cycle of a project or a program. Don't fall into the trap of we want to be green because that's what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see reds and ambers as early as possible, because if you see reds and ambers as early as possible, they can do something about it. And you avoid this situation where problems or risks get worse and it festers and the problems last longer and it costs a lot more and the project delivers later and delivers benefits later. So creating a culture where red and amber is good and should be promoted as early as possible in the cycle is important. And you'll need your sponsors and your stakeholders buy into that, because they're very much setting the culture. The second thing is really how you present risk and how you present projects and programs that are at a risk. And what I've got here is the way that we do it. So this is a portfolio of projects, which, as you can see, is a mix of red, amber and green. When going through a portfolio like this, remember to challenge the greens. As I said, red and amber are good, and often it's as important to challenge green, is it really green, as it is to take a red and amber and look a bit deeper. Then the thing that we generally do is we say, well, if we need to concentrate our view into the reds and the ambers, let's set some filters and actually create this visual for the leadership team that is really just showing the reds and the ambers. So I've taken out the additional work, time, effort to look at the greens. We've challenged them separately. The next thing is really to present information on risks on a plate, so to speak, for the execs, so or for portfolio managers or whatever. So here we've got a risk matrix and an issue matrix, which is all of my escalated risks and all of my escalated issues in the portfolio. But couldn't be easier. I've got a nice matrix. It's easy to see. There are 52 in total, and either then give them the ability to drill into them. So these are the 3 risks that are at the highest score on red programs. I've got to look at that because that's going to give me some pretty important information on what's what. So there are my 3 risks. The thing I want to know is that we've got mitigations and whether they're go live or not go live issues. So yeah, it's just crucial to get that view. And then finally, creating risk reports that essentially give the information in a really simple format that you can send out and that is easy to digest. Remember from the last bar chat, the 1-5 principle. 1 minute to establish what you need to look at, 5 minutes to deep dive. Similar principle here. 1 minute to establish which are the programs that I need to read the risks on, and 5 minutes to deep dive. So and make sure that risks are accompanied with mitigations, but just keep the visual, keep the view simple, keep it easy to digest, keep it easy to work with for your leadership team. They don't want war and peace. So give it a go. Hello there and welcome back into the bar for the next in this series of looking at how PMOs perform in moments of crisis. It's a great time to shine. Moments of crisis are when PMOs should come into their absolute element. It's the time when the business is on its knees worrying about a particular situation, economic, pandemic, whatever it might be, in the sector, whatever it might be. So there is never a better time for the PMO to really shine. And the thing I want to concentrate on today is the concept of, and I bang on about this a lot because I really feel strongly about it, but is the concept of keeping things simple. In moments of crisis, more than anything else, those are times when the organization, the last thing the organization and the leadership team need is overcomplicated reports, insights, etc. You know, in some situations, for instance, you might need to recast the portfolio and the leadership team might need very, very quickly, even overnight pretty much, to determine which of the projects they're going to stop, which ones they're going to put on hold, and which of the new projects they're going to pull in to try and counter the situation with whatever the crisis might be. In that situation, the key is the more simple you can keep the information and the more credible the information is, the better the discussion is going to be, and therefore the decision making is going to be around that portfolio prioritization. So the sort of things that I'm talking about are giving a simple view of what does our resource profile look like? What is capacity versus demand looking like for particular roles? So this, for instance, is our business analyst role. I can see we've got a capacity issue. We need to do something about that, and we need to then look at the projects that are causing the issue. How important are they? Can we actually pull them back or not? I think the other thing is just presenting project information in bite-sized chunks. So for instance, if I go into, this can be a PowerPoint, by the way, it doesn't have to be on our tool, our PPM tool, it can be on anything you like, but your executive summaries, for instance, keep them in bullets. There's no need to write long sentences, or it won't be digested. So also create a narrative that's sort of in line with what the business needs. So for instance, if you have a RAG status and some sub-RAGs, you might want your narrative not to be why is it amber, but more to be what are you doing to get it back to green, which is a far more positive and constructive narrative in most situations. Same with, just thinking of where we can go. So keeping a high level plan, easily digestible, but visibility of milestones that are slipping. So if they are slipping, let's make that really simple to see, because the baseline is held and the milestone starts drifting to the right, but that slippage is visible. Tracking when benefits are actually due, but in a format that's just simple to read, really easy, and maybe also grouping the key milestones into logical groups. So in this case, we've got delivery of milestones, we've got commercial milestones, because there's commercial implications to this particular project. So yeah, just doing everything you can to keep both the information simple, and also probably for your delivery teams, keeping the input really simple. So for instance, we've got here a simple report. This is designed to be no more than 5 minutes once a week or once a month. And if you can do this on PowerPoint or in another tool, then that's great. But essentially just looking at, and again, same thing, forcing the right narrative. So these are the things that we've achieved this week. This is what's planned next week. And these are my escalations. Why do I need to put more than that in a report? That's a 2-minute report. Enable your project delivery community to have a good and easy user experience, because you're not asking for very much. You're asking for 5 minutes of their time. You're not asking them to create PowerPoints. You're not asking them to fill out spreadsheets. You can take all of that away. And the more you can keep things simple for both your delivery teams and your leadership teams during a period of crisis, the more chance you've got of being a very, very popular PMO and being valued as a significant contributor to the success of the organization in times like that, volatile times. All the best.